So uranium is flying. What's next? I have been coming to this conference for, I want to say, about 3 or 4 years and pounding the table or pounding this podium and talking about one thing only. And you're probably sick and tired of hearing it. That one thing has been uranium. Now, as you can probably tell by everything else that's going on in this event, you'll see that uranium is finally the wonder boy of this event. Now, the reason is very clear. When I started to come here and tell you guys about it, it was under $30 per pound. And now we've just crossed over $100 per pound. That's the spot market. That's not the equities. Now, one thing that I want to draw your attention to is that we broke through 100 like this. No resistance whatsoever. I have a hunch as to why that happened. I did not expect that myself, even following up, this market pretty closely. But I think the reason why this broke through without any sort of resistance is the key to the reason why I think we still have a lot of legs in this market, and I think that prices are going to get pretty absurd. I know I'm trying to curb my enthusiasm here. I don't like to be a screaming bull, and I think you should diversify accordingly. But what I'm saying in this market is very, very difficult to find elsewhere. So I got to tell you, this is my little victory lap. I was right. Doesn't mean I made more money than when I was early to the trade, but to all of you uranium investors here, just out of curiosity, how many of you guys have some exposure to uranium? Awesome. You're my crowd. So you've probably heard this saying by none other than Rick Rule. He says, in uranium, the easy money has been made. Well, I don't know if holding something for several years before it starts to catch a bid is easy money, but I'll take it. But I think what most people aren't realizing is the fact that there is more to that saying than just the beginning. If the easy money has been made, you have to imagine what comes next. And this is what comes next. The real money gets made now, and the big money gets made when it gets stupid. That's his words, not mine. So if you want to buy into the hype, these are Rick Rule's words, not Fabi's, okay? Now, I want you to think about what usually happens in a bubble. What usually happens in a bubble, as with any market that you can look at, is that the commodity price will go up and the equity prices will eventually catch up with it and overshoot. What's happening right now is that most equities have not caught up to the price that they were in November of 2021. So I am not guaranteeing that uranium equities are going to absolutely make you rich and make you retire, but I want to pose this question. When have you last seen a commodity go up in price, break through a 16-year high? You talk to anybody who's involved deep into the market, and they say the market has never been tighter in their lifetimes. And the equities just not follow that up. I've never seen it. I'm young. Maybe it's happened before. But it begs the question, what are the equities going to do next? And I think that they will go stupid high. Higher and higher for longer. But that's just my opinion, and that's where I'm still holding most of my portfolio. But let's be honest. What I want is to show you how I've been right and how you should believe in what I'm saying so that you can come follow me, sign up to my newsletter. So I have a bias. That's very obvious. But you guys want something else. You want stock picks, okay? Let's just put it out in the open. You guys want me to tell you what to buy, what's interesting, and why you should buy it. Well, before I go into mentioning any names and I will mention some names when it comes to diversifying yourself out of uranium, because it's going to get expensive at some point. I want you to think of how you build your portfolio, not just the stocks that you're going to buy. The fact that we have a tight situation in the market means that you're going to have to rethink some common sense practices that you've been taught out here. Now, funny thing is, uranium has more than tripled in 3 years. If that happened to silver, this conference would have to be in a much bigger place. Because this is a small market, it is very explosive. Not that many people care. They're starting to care now. Usually, bull markets don't end when people are just starting to care about something. Now, here are the uranium catalysts, and I want to kind of explain to you why we broke through 100 and why I think it is not completely outside of possibility that we keep going up and that we actually maybe even break through 150, 200, God knows where. So I just picked 6 motives as to why this is happening right now, why the market is really tight, but they're not the only ones. So I don't have time to go into every single detail, but I'll just run quickly through them. One of them is that we're starting a contracting cycle. So 2023 was a time when utilities started to purchase pounds in order to, start to refill their cupboards, so to speak. But the way that fuel buyers do their buying and selling is not too dissimilar to the cycles that we go through in commodities. Things go up, things go down. They start buying more, usually when things are getting more expensive, and they start selling more or not buying as much when the price is coming down. It works the same way. And we have had 1 year of them purchasing more than usual. We also have countries tripling their capacity, their nuclear capacity. So when you have 22 countries signing documents that say, we want nuclear, that's a clear sign for the future that they're going to go out there, build those plants. They're going to need a lot of uranium to put into those plants. Well, you don't put uranium into your plant. You put something else into your nuclear facilities, but that actually really plays a strong part into the whole underfeeding, overfeeding dynamics. Now, we have to remember that uranium itself is not nuclear fuel. Uranium is an input to nuclear fuel. So uranium needs to be mined, and a certain amount of it will be used in order to eventually make fabricated fuel. Why that's important? It's because sometimes when the market is really quiet, prices are really down, you need less of it. So it's a downward spiral. The problem is, or the opportunity is for us, is that we're now going up that spiral, because the more you need it, the more you need it, basically. The more that you need the nuclear output, the actual fabricated source, the enriched material, the more you need yellow cake in order to make it. And so when things are bad in uranium land, things are really bad. When things are good, things get really, really good. Number 3 is extensions. So when we talk about new mines coming into production, there's going to be new pounds. Yes, there will be new pounds. There's always somebody trying to make a mine work, if the price is right. But when we have one power plant that was supposed to close, say, in 2 years, say, we're going to close in 4 years, not in 2 years. We're going to close in 6 years. We're going to extend the lifetime of our plant, which has happened in droves in the last 2 years. What you have is a purchase that needs to happen today. And that affects the spot market, which I believe is one of the reasons why you saw us break through 100, Because I think that the buyers that were getting in from 95 to 100, I don't think they were disciplined, financially incentivized players. I think the people who bought from 95 to 106, they just need the pounds. They need to fulfill a need that's short term. And it doesn't make sense for them to bring up a chart of prices of uranium and try to get in at the very best price. It doesn't make sense for fuel buyers in general to try to time the market in the way that we financially incentivized people want to do it. Another thing that we have to remember is the time lag. Okay, so we're at $100 per pound. Great. Let's all start producing more. Right. Who's going to fund that? In order to fund that, you need contracts. You need banks to look at the price and believe that the price is going to hold for many years to come. And then you need staff that's appropriately trained for some of the hardest mines in the world, in the worst permitting material in the world. You want to get a permit for a gold mine? That's one thing. You want to get a permit for a uranium mine? That is not the same thing. That's a whole different level of scrutiny, as it should. And not that many people would want a uranium mine in their backyards versus a gold mine, let's face it. The new mines are small, so the U.S. is finally coming back into, being a producer and trying to, bring back something that they used to completely own in the 60s to 80s. The U.S. was #1 producer in the world. Now they're trying to turn back on the production, and what's happening is, we're likely going to see maybe 3 million pounds, 4 million pounds of uranium within the next 12 months or so, with 2 extensions of nuclear power plants saying, we need a few more years out of this power plant. That covers the whole of the U.S. production like this. So whatever mines are coming right now, they're very small and they're not going to fill the gaps. Also, ramp-ups are constrained. Let's face it. The question in everybody's mind is, can Kazatomprom turn on the spigot, produce more? Can they flood the market? I don't even use the term flood the market anymore because it's so out there. The question has pretty much been answered by them lately. They are saying themselves, we need more sulfuric acid, and we cannot get it to the levels that we need in order to really increase production to the levels that we want to. So these are their words, not mine. And they are moving towards actually starting their own sulfuric acid facility. When a miner starts to get into a different business to support its main business, to me, I don't want to say it's a red flag, but it's a clear signal that they really, really need the acid. Right now, they need 50% plus more acid to make the same amount of uranium. And they're paying very dearly for that. So no, I don't think that Kazatomprom can turn on the spigot. They're trying, but I don't think that they can physically pump out more uranium as quickly as the world wants them to. So what could break this market? Supply. Demand is super strong, probably not going to go anywhere, but supply could come out of left field. And it makes me very uneasy that I couldn't tell you where I think supply is going to come from enough to really disrupt this market. And this is why I honestly think that you should start looking to diversify. But if you stay completely out of the uranium market, I think you're going to miss, the ride of a lifetime, because I don't see massive supply coming from anywhere. So the question is, what else is out there? Eventually, uranium stocks are going to do their thing. They're very likely going to explode. And you're very likely going to be left with that feeling of, hey, I made a great decision. I've made a lot of money. I'm out, or I'm partially out. What do I do with my gains? And it is painfully obvious that right now, gold companies are extremely, extremely cheap. So if you want to be a contrarian and you're already in the uranium trade, by all means, stay in the trade. I am staying in the trade. I'm going to be buying more. I'm buying more of smaller companies now. And I have my own preference for what I like to see in a company. Strong management teams, great upside, people that have stuck with it through thick and thin. But if you don't have any gold in your portfolio, I think you're kind of insane. I'm not going to have to sell you on the story of gold because in this show, everybody here is pretty much a gold bug and can tell you what's going to happen to the price of gold. I don't think the price of gold needs to do anything in order for there to be a re-rate in companies that have, either really interesting discoveries or just resources that can really work and that are interesting takeout targets. So what do we have for gold? I'm going to mention a few companies that I think you should take a look at. I'm going to mention a few more as well, and I'm going to mention a few more commodities that I think you should look at. With gold, there is Collective Mining down in Colombia. Every single time they put out a news release, it is almost unbelievable. Super wide intercepts, very decent grade. They're down in Colombia and great management team, as well as Aris Mining. That's also a company in Colombia. They're producing right now. They're making a boatload of cash. And if you look at the management team, you're going to figure out what I figured out. They're not going to remain a small producer. These guys are going to go out and just pretty much buy everything that they can get their hands onto as long as it makes sense. So I really like Aris Mining. Montage Gold, super no-brainer. They have an NPV out of, I think, 1.1 billion, and they're ready to go. And the people who are building it, they move super fast. But not only do they move super fast, is that they have done this before in a very similar manner. And so if you look at the history of the people running these three companies, for instance, you're going to see that they've done it before. They've sold billion-dollar companies to majors, and they have what it takes to take these companies into production. Aris is just more of an expansion story because it's already in production. So I also like platinum. You don't hear a lot about platinum. Platinum is really interesting. I'll tell you right now, it's not as watertight as uranium. Nothing out here is as good of a story as uranium, okay, guys? I need to tell you that. You're not going to find, the uranium story of 2024. The uranium story of 2024 is uranium. And the companies that I think are going to fly are uranium companies. But as they get more expensive, you're going to have to diversify if you want to maintain discipline. So platinum is interesting. It's a tiny little market. When I heard this, I almost fell off my chair. 8 million ounces per year of platinum. And 6 of that is production. 2 million is recycling. So things can flip on a dime. But most importantly, 70+% of platinum is produced in South Africa. South Africa, if you know anything, has been dealing with very serious energy issues. So any hiccup that South Africa has can really, really affect the price of platinum. Now, the issue is, and the reason why I'm not putting up any names for platinum companies, is most platinum producers are based in South Africa. So if I tell you, go buy the stock, and the reason why the price is spiking is issues with South Africa, those companies might suffer as well. So you might have to take a look at doing something weird. We're all weird here. We've all bought silver coins, gold coins. There are platinum coins that you can buy, bars that you can invest in. So I wouldn't be opposed to doing something like that, a little bit, out of left field. And there are also, development projects. You just have to do a little bit more sniffing around. There might be a couple in Brazil that I'm starting to take a look at. Now, I also like copper. And I'm gonna finish this off with copper because I'm trying to position myself as somebody who is looking into the future, and I don't want to guess what's next in the same way that we do with tech stocks. We try to guess where society is going to go. That's very difficult. With our industry, it's much, much easier. What we do is we look at what's worked before, what isn't super sexy or in vogue, but what will happen again. Now, there is a narrative in copper that is kind of starting to sound interesting to me, because within our group here of investors in mining stocks, we are very biased against the establishment when it comes to the Fed, when it comes to the economy and things of that nature. And so what most people on this floor here believe is that there will be a recession in 2024. Therefore, they're not investing in copper stocks just yet. If you want to be a true contrarian, you should be a contrarian within a group of contrarians. And so I'm starting to look at copper stocks with a different eye, and I'm starting to probably, look into getting positioned this year. There are two companies that I want to mention here for copper. One of them is Abitibi Metals. I'm biased. I own the stock, and they're a client of mine. Very high grade copper in Quebec. So you can pull it up, Abitibi Metals. And the team is absolutely stellar. You can also take a look at Amark Resources. Again, very much like the companies that I've mentioned, a management team that has found the copper, district scale, nothing small, and then sold it multiple times. They're not massively, they're not massive promoters, so you're not going to see them everywhere. But when you look at the projects they have and the experience that they have, and you look at the market cap, you're going to be scratching your head for sure. So I don't need to tell you what's going to fly in the next 3 months, because, this only happens once a year. But I think that this time next year, those two companies are going to be in a much better position. And even if copper is not flying yet, I can wait. I can position myself now, because I know that my exit isn't going to be perfect. It might be a little bit sloppy. And so you want to make sure that you get in when nobody cares. A lot of these stocks nobody cares about, and we're starting to enter a phase where people are going to start noticing uranium more and more. That's when you start selling. Doesn't mean you get out of the market now. I think most of the gains are yet to come. But absolutely, start to look at the alternative, because there's a lot of companies out there with really interesting deposits and projects that nobody cares about, and you can catch really good prices right now. So, I'm Fabi from The Next Big Rush. This is my newsletter. You should sign up. It's free. If you don't like it, then you can get all of your money back. We have really good memes, which is the number one reason you should subscribe. But the number two reason you should subscribe is we go through all the big headlines of what happened in mining today, and we try to pick out the best ones that will make sense for you as a small investor trying to make the best return for your money. And you can follow us on social media as well. We're very active on YouTube and Twitter. And that's it. I hope you make an absolute killing in these markets, and hang on to your hats, because I think we're on the cusp of something truly amazing. Thank you.